Hello, I'm Richard Fox, the town crier of Lyme Regis. Today, I'm going to take you on a quest in an area known by the Anglo-Saxons as Wessex. It was in this area that King Arthur and his knights held their domain. King Arthur sent the knights out on quests for the Holy Grail, or even a maiden in distress. We are on a quest for the Pearl of Dorset, for that is the name by which the town of Lyme Regis is affectionately known.
We are taking the modern form of transport, the aeroplane, on our quest for the Pearl of Dorset. Man has lived in this beautiful corner of England from the Stone Age. As we fly to our destination, we will pass some of the permanent monuments left by these early people. Maiden Castle near Dorchester is one of the largest earthwork forts in Britain. The last great battle was fought here in AD 43 when the Celts made their last desperate stand against the Roman general Vespasian. Near Maiden Castle on the outskirts of Dorchester, the well-defined bowl of the Roman amphitheatre is clearly to be seen. The Romans were shocked by the barbarism of the Celts, especially their worship of their giant god. The giant overlooking the village of Cernabis is a fine example. Cut into the hillside, he is 180 feet high. Human sacrifices were made to these fertility symbols. Below is the town of Dorchester, made famous by the author Thomas Hardy. His name for the town was Casterbridge. At Sherborne Castle, the ancient ruins and the later Sherborne Castle, the ancestral home of the Digby family, stand proudly overlooking the lake. It was at Sherborne Castle that Sir Walter Raleigh had a bucket of water thrown over him by a servant who thought he was on fire. In fact, he was smoking his first pipe of tobacco in England. The port of Weymouth is the mainland ferry terminal for the Channel Islands and France. This town was made famous in the mid-1700s by King George III, as it was from these sandy beaches that he made the sport of sea bathing popular. Weymouth today is a popular holiday centre. Portland Harbour, with its long breakwater, built by the French prisoners of war during the Napoleonic Wars, has been the host of the British Navy for generations. Many an American sailor will remember docking here during World War II. Britain's most famous admiral, Lord Nelson, may well have sailed his famous flagship HMS Victory into these waters. The Victory is now on permanent exhibition in Portsmouth Dockyard. Portland Bill, as this massive outcrop of rock is known, has been the supply centre for the Portland stone used in the building of many of Britain's historic buildings, including Sir Christopher Wren's St Paul's Cathedral. The Bill, as it is called, has been the graveyard for many a proud ship. It is one of the most treacherous stretches of water around the British Isles. 5 currents meet here. The area of water behind the Chesil Bank is known as the Fleet. The peace of this area was broken during the Second World War when Guy Gibson's famous Dam Busters squadron carried out some of the rehearsals with the Barnes-Wallis bouncing bomb. The 618 feet high cliff of Golden Cap stands sentinel to our arrival at Lyme Regis. It is in the lower levels of the Blue Lias that the world-famous fossil deposits are found, and Golden Cap is the highest cliff on the south coast of England. These massive stone walls have been host and haven to sailors, smugglers and travellers for nearly 1,000 years. Just recently they were made world famous as the set for dramatic scenes in the film The French Lieutenant's Woman, written by our local author, Mr. John Fowles. The town played host to the film set. The ancient fabric seemed unimpressed even at the appearance of the actors, Meryl Streep and Jeremy Irons. The excitement was absorbed like a sponge into the surroundings that have seen so much during the town's tempestuous past. The Cobb was one of the most important ports on the southwest coast and has seen many economic extremes during its stormy history. Ships of Lyme were known during the great days of exploration in far-flung places such as Senegal, the Gambia, America, Spain and Portugal. Cutthroats, pirates and smugglers were well known on these old walls. Today, the Cobb is a hive of industry. Fishing boats, mackerel tripping boats, sailors, windsurfers and power boats all vie for pride of place. The RNLI Atlantic-class lifeboat is always at the ready to put to sea to save the unwary sailor. The Royal National Lifeboat Institution is a voluntary body supported entirely by voluntary contributions. There are lifeboats stationed all around the 3,000 miles of British coastline. It can often be a very hazardous job crewing a lifeboat.
Well, hello. Look where you've caught me this morning. I'm taking one of these rather romantic trips in this lifeboat. It's the Atlantic 21, the Lyme Regis lifeboat. It's a nostalgic trip for me, for I served 6 years on the crew with the helmsman, John Hodder, our expert helmsman here in Lyme Regis. Although today is a very quiet, gentle day, often John Hodder, our expert helmsman, has to put to sea in extremely hazardous conditions. In fact, Mr. Hodder has won 2 bronze medals from the RNLI. Well, this boat is powered by 2 65 horsepower engines. Her top speed is in excess of 30 knots. It's quite difficult to keep my hat on as we travel at this speed in the wind. Of course, in this nice quiet sea, you don't get the buffeting that you do when she puts to sea in a full gale, when often the boat itself can fly right out of the water. Well, Mr. Hodder, thank you very much for giving us your little demonstration this morning. And thank you to your crew for taking us out. On the north wall stand 3 ancient cannons. I excavated these cannons from the sand in the harbour in 1974. They were part of Lyme's memorial to its 1,200 years of recorded history. They're dated 1600 and 1601 and were last used in anger when the French Admiral Tourville invaded with the entire French fleet in 1690.
The Cobb is separated from the main town by the Marine Parade, a half-mile-long traffic-free pedestrian walk, flanked by the sea on one side and some picturesque houses on the other. Many of the thatched cottages can be rented for short periods during the summer months. The Bay Hotel commands a magnificent aspect. Library Cottage, a pretty building, has this lovely water trough and these downpipes, which enhance its general appearance. Broad Street slopes steeply to the sea, originally called Broad Street as it was paved with the blue lias broadstones in the 1600s. Each of the houses flanking the street relies upon its neighbour for continual support.
Here on Bell Cliff, overlooking the square, stands this cannon, a favourite plaything of the children. It stands on the site of the old town warning bell. The bell was used to warn of invasion, as it did in 1588 when the Spanish Armada sailed into the bay. The town sent 2 ships, the Jacob and the Revenge, to help the fleet. They forced a Spanish galleon ashore here. The panelling from the captain's cabin still exists in the house of Mr. Cecil Quick. Hello, Cecil.
Hello, Richard.
It's nice to see you here working at your pots.
And you?
Don't mind us just coming in and having a look?
No.
Because I've always found this interesting. Tell me, why is it that you probably are the last person left on this coast making the pots in this traditional manner?
Well, all the older ones have died out and they haven't passed it on.
Well, that's a great shame. It's not the fact that these weren't as efficient as the more modern pot.
Oh no, they're just as efficient, but more vulnerable to heavy seas and...
So this one here, that you've got on the top here, that one is a result of the heavy sea, is it?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
That's in one day.
God. Yeah, when they made the French Lieutenant's film here, they had a lot of pots in that. Did you have anything to do with those?
Yes, I made all them.
Did you? How many did you have to make for the film?
20.
20? Yeah. And how long did that take you?
60 hours altogether.
60?
Yeah.
Good Lord. And now what happens with this, once you've made the neck there, presumably that's what you call this top piece of the pot?
Yeah,
the thing, it's upside down, is it, at the moment?
That's right, yeah.
That is, that you're making now is this piece, is it? This bit that's inside?
That's right, yeah.
And then what do you do with these?
That comes up to there, and then these are turned down.
Oh, and hell, I wondered what that ring was for. I
just
see.
through the holes here, whatever.
Yeah.
That's the proper.
Now, there's another thing. You were telling me the other day that in your house you have this panelling from the captain's cabin from the Spanish galleon?
Yeah, from one of the Armada ships.
Perhaps before I leave, you might allow me in your house to have a look at that.
Yeah, certainly, Richard, yeah.
Thank you. Lyme, in its heyday, was populated by sailors and wealthy merchants. The merchants have now all gone, but their permanent legacy are some of their original houses. The Tudor House Hotel, built in 1580, is completely in its original form.
The supporting post was traditionally thought to have come from the Mayflower that took the Pilgrim Fathers to America in 1620. Here in the dining room, the original beautiful beams still exist. And this Blue Lias fireplace was recently exposed. The fireplace was the heart of the house, for it provided the heat, and the food for the family was cooked on the open grate. The Victorians, as fashions changed, filled in these massive openings. The massive flue became obsolete. When you open one of these grates, it's like opening an Egyptian tomb. You never know what you're going to find. In the cellar, a complete oak tree was used to make the beam to support the floor above. And in the center, the old well that provided the water for the house. It still could today. It's amazing. Quite incredible. The ancient courthouse and guildhall of Lyme Regis has been the site of government here in the town since 1284, when King Edward I granted the town its first charter. The ancient rituals are still observed here. The town's 2 silver maces were given to the town by Thomas and John Fane. The Fanes were the infamous Fanes. They didn't live in the town, but they had control of it. They lived at their ancient manor house at Brimpton Devonsey. Their rule ceased with the Reform Act of Parliament in 1832. Their descendant, Charles Clive Ponsonby Fane, still resides in the ancient manor house at Brimpton Devonsey even till this day. The mayor still meets here in the Guildhall once a month and presides over his council.
Sergeant Mace, please open the court.
Oh yea, oh yea, oh yea. All persons having business at this court of hustings, draw near and give your attendance.
The first written record of Lyme was in 774 AD, when the Saxon king Cynewulf gave the lands along the river Lym to the monks at Sherborne to come here to make sea salt.
The Guildhall overlooks Gun Cliff, the site of the old marketplace, as the notice board bears witness.
And beneath the turret of the museum are the 2 stone arches that once was the site of the butcher's shop.
I always like to look over these defense walls. You never know what secrets are hidden behind the ledges or on the old stairways. Even the odd sun worshipper may have settled on the ledges below. Philpott Museum houses many of the town's artefacts. Its curator, the author and historian, Mr. John Fowles, is proud of this fire engine made for the town in 1720.
The museum houses the well-preserved notice that the author Henry Fielding nailed to the Guildhall door in 1725 after his ill-fated attempt to abduct the 16-year-old heiress Sarah Andrew. Fielding wrote many bawdy novels, including Tom Jones.
Oh, hello. Just come to have a look in your lovely house.
Ah.
In the Malabar guest house is this fine through passage, so popular in the 14th and 15th centuries, but more remarkable, in the chimney in the kitchen, they have recently found a priest's hole.
As we creep through these small secret doors, we look up into the refuge for a monk during the religious persecutions of the 16th and 17th centuries. He would have been rather cramped up here, but could have survived undisturbed for a long time. But we are disturbing layers of dust that have accumulated over 200 or 300 years.
Gosh, where have I found myself now? Gosh, this is the cellar. Be very careful in here. You don't bang your head on these very ancient beams. And a fireplace. Gosh, did our ancestors actually live down in here? What else have we got in here? People have been storing things down here like that. These lovely old bowls. What a jug. The good old days when you had to take your hot water to your bedroom with you. I wonder where the rest of this room goes. Now these beams, I think probably these would date even from the 12th century. You can also see the steps that lead up to a bricked wall, but in fact, I would think in the old days, that is where you would have climbed up to the street. On our way up to the church, in 1685, on these railings, after the Duke of Monmouth had landed in England, he landed here in Lyme on his ill-fated attempt to take the throne from James II. Monmouth's troops were quickly routed, and Monmouth himself was taken to London and had his head cut off. Judge Jeffreys sentenced 12 of our local men to be hanged, drawn and quartered on the site where Monmouth had landed. On these railings, the heads and the body sections of those poor people were displayed for the whole town to see.
The parish church of St. Michael the Archangel was built in 1580 in the perpendicular style of English church architecture. The porch was built by the Normans in 1100.
Framed by this Norman archway, directly below the bell tower, is this beautiful Victorian font. From this fine Jacobean pulpit, the vicars of Lyme have delivered their sermons since 1613. Even the boss that contained the hourglass still exists on this top surface.
This stained glass window in the porch commemorates Thomas Coram, a wealthy sea captain born in Lyme in 1668. Thomas Coram founded the first foundling hospital for children in London. He is also remembered in the town with Coram Avenue and the old rectory Coram Court. The statue of St. Michael is safely lodged in the chimney. Coram Court was built in 1835. It is now a holiday fellowship hotel. The Victorian Coram Tower, commanding a panoramic view, is now holiday flats.
Kersbrook Hotel. This fine Regency house, built originally in 1771 by the Code family as a house to be rented to the visiting gentry. Well, what have we got here? I wonder where these steps go to.
Beautiful Dorset. I've traveled this country for many a mile. I've seen lots of wonderful things, but my thoughts wander back to the county I love, to the folk and the welcome they bring. Dorset, Dorset, beautiful Dorset, may you never alter or change, may you never alter or change. They take me back to the times that are gone, to traditions that are now very rare, to the dancing and singing in the old country style, to the markets and old county fairs. Dorset, Dorset, beautiful Dorset, may you never alter or change, may you never alter or change. Now that I'm back in my own Dorset hills, with the friends and the old folks at home, I'll never more stray from my county again, never abroad will I roam. Dorset, Dorset, beautiful Dorset, Dorset, beautiful Dorset, may you never alter or change, may you never alter or change.
By George, look at these superb ferns. Look how beautifully they're growing. You could almost be in the tropical forests of South America with this sort of growth around you. And look about us. I see wild strawberries growing here. You see the strawberries, how lovely. Look at that, a beautiful wild strawberry. Superb. I've also noticed in this wild wilderness wild raspberries and wild gooseberries growing there. This, at one time, must have been a garden to a large house. But as you can see, it's been allowed to deteriorate and nature has just taken over. But see how wonderful nature really can be. this must be Belmont, the home of the Code family.
The Codes were wealthy merchants who invented the famous Code stone, which was used for ornamentation on buildings. With the passing of the last of the Codes, the secret of the ingredients for their product died with them. However, there are some good examples here in the garden and on the facade of the front elevation of the house. The pavilion at Brighton and the statue of King George III at Weymouth are also good examples. The observant tourist will also pick out examples in Lyme Regis. Even the butcher's shop in Broad Street has some fine pieces as its crowning glory on its cornice.
The famous Mary Anning is also commemorated in the church. This is her window. She was buried right outside. Mary was the first person to take a scientific interest in the fossil deposits. She found the first Ichthyosaurus, a dolphin-like creature from the seas 180 million years ago. Today, the tap, tap, tap of the fossil hunter's hammer can still be heard. There are always new fossil deposits coming to life here on Monmouth Beach. Well, I'm sitting here this afternoon under the protection of my crash helmet, purely and simply because this afternoon I'm fossiling. And here on Monmouth Beach, some of the most dramatic fossils that we have in this area are found. Lyme Regis has become world famous for fossils. Mary Anning was the first lady to take the scientific interest in the fossils, and that was way back at the turn of the 1800s. Mary Anning was rather ridiculed by the local people for her interest in animals that were alive somewhere in the region of 180 million years ago. For in this blue lias, you could see it on the cliffs here, that rock was laid down in the Jurassic period of the Earth's development. Now, it's sedimentary rock, so the rock is layered, and it's in the layers that we find the fossils. And if I strike this nodule, as we call it, with this hammer, it's likely that we may expose a fossil. So let me have a go and see what we can find. I have to bang it along the bedding planes, and with any luck, the stone will open in one piece. There, now let's see what we've found. What we're looking for, of course, is a perfect fossil. And open this one up, and we're really rather unlucky because there is a fossil in here, but unfortunately it's not nicely exposed as you would hope to find it. But let's pick another. This one, for instance, what about this? Wonder what we'd find if we actually exposed this stone. What about that for a beautiful fossil? Just one cornetto. That's all I need. Just one cornetto. Here we are then. Do come and join us. Once you've all gathered. Well, now I've stopped you in the square here. This is George's Square. Now what I wanted to point out to you are the buildings. Now if you look at all these buildings all around this square and throughout Lyme Regis, even the church tower, you will notice, has cement rendering on the outside. Now it's the cement rendering that has protected and preserved these buildings, purely and simply because they're built of the blue lias, which is the stone from the Jurassic period 180 million years ago. And it's in that stone that the deposits of fossils are found. Well, now it's a very soft sedimentary rock. And if you expose it to the weather, like this one here, Monmouth House, you will find that the stone, with the weathering, the frost in the winter, the wind and the rain, it very quickly deteriorates the stone. But what is exciting about that is as the stone deteriorates, it also exposes new layers of fossils in the buildings themselves, in the stone. So if you look closely in that stonework, you will find that there are little fossils in there. But that building won't last forever. It's a great shame. It should be re-rendered again. In the old days, Lyme Regis, one of its main industries was cement making. And here in town, out on Monmouth Beach, we had a cement factory, which was closed down in the 1920s, purely and simply because they were using the blue lias stone from the cliffs, which was found to be eroding our cliffs too rapidly. So they then stopped the cement works here. But anyway, this is Cat's Park we're standing in, or George's Square. Now, Woodruff gave this square to the town in perpetuity for the people to come here and recreate. Now, the thing was that when this was an old port, there always, where you have ports, there is always a red light district. Well, Woodruff was in fact the secretary to the Viceroy of India. And when he came back from India in the early 1900s, this was a red light area. He then bought the houses that were here and threw the ladies of the night out. What a shame, what a spoil sport. Those sailors who've been sailing those sailing ships all across the world, when they came into the port of Lyme, needed a little bit of light entertainment. But anyway, he left this as an open space for the people of Lyme to recreate in and not protest. Here we come. This is Coombe Street, the oldest street in Lyme Regis. Now, as you come out of here, I'd like you to notice the old sailor, Tony Archer Thompson there with his R&Li shirt on, but he's got that lovely African grey parrot on his shoulder. Beautiful bird. Now, Tony is really rather a representative figure of the old sailors who you might well have seen here in this street in the early times. Coombe Street was the commercial street of Lyme Regis. Now, in those early days, it was suggested that there were up to 16 pubs along this street. There's also a tradition till this day that the ladies of the street here, when they were entertaining the sailors, would put a broomstick on the doorstep. That was the symbol of These are the traditional workers' cottages in Lyme Regis. They've been converted now into holiday homes, or many of the local people still live here. It was in this little street that the lace makers used to carry on their trade, unfortunately no longer existing in the town. Fortunately, in Jeff Manley, our wood turner, we still have the craft of bobbin making carried on in the town today. It's always a great pleasure for me, Jeff, to come down here to your shop and have a little stroll round and browse along your shelves, because you have such beautiful things. Your craft, the wood turning, you have it at your fingertips. What amazes me with your work also is the fact that you can do the spinning wheels, much larger items, and then you go right through to such delicate things such as these miniature pots. Quite fantastic. And again, here, out of bone, these lace-making bobbins. That must be quite difficult to make too. And of course you make thimbles as well. You make them out of ivory, but this one is made of horn, I believe.
Yes.
Now, what you told me probably you're the only person in England making them out of horn. What's so difficult?
Well, it's because the material itself is so difficult to work. It is the most difficult material I actually use. If I'm turning, say, wooden bobbins or ivory bobbins, I can make a small mistake and get over it. But if I make one small mistake on this horn, it will shatter, split down the middle or whatever. They take a long time to make, and usually the mistake is made when you're doing the neck, and that's a quarter of an hour's work gone. each time. So you have to concentrate 4 or 5 times as much on these as on any other type of work I use.
Now, what sort of animal does that horn come from?
This is an ox horn, an African ox horn, and the black one over there is Indian buffalo horn. They don't shoot them just to get their horns. They wait until they die.
Good Lord, that's incredible. Well, why don't you take me through to your workshop and let's really see you working on the lathe. It's a very fascinating
Certainly, I'll show you how I do some of the bobbins.
Okay, thank you. Quite a pretty little cottage, Puck's cottage. That's a little holiday home. Look at this nice little entrance porch here. Lovely, beautifully kept. And look at these lovely roses. Absolutely superb on a lovely day like today. There's the water flowing through the archway. That is the power that the miller actually had at his disposal. And that's a clutch that survives.
On Tuesdays and Thursdays, many visitors from all over the world enjoy following me for 2 hours as I impart to them the exciting secrets of the 1200 years of the town's history.
Yeah. Whenever I'm out in this uniform, people are always following me about. I'm about fed up with it today. I'm going into my home, the Volunteer, and have a cup of tea.
In the Chamber Pot Bar, every Saturday evening, Nellie Templeman plays the piano for a traditional pub sing-along. On the ceiling, my valuable collection of antique chamber pots is displayed.
Oh, hello. You've now caught me at the Royal Lion Hotel in Broad Street. Oh, please excuse my intrusion, madam.
Good morrow, sir.
But I have found the reason for the Royal Lion's royal connection. For you're sleeping in the King's half-tester bed. Edward VII slept here when he was the Prince of Wales. I wonder if his chamber pot's still under the bed. Chambermaid! Oh, good. Just have a look, girl, under the bed and see if there's a pot under there, would you? Ah, a fine example. I wonder if the king actually used this pot. Fine example. I wonder if the king actually used this pot. In this hotel, much of the original panelling still exists. It also houses some very beautiful ornaments and furniture. These copper kettles are fine examples, and this very beautiful grandfather clock.
In the bedroom of the Three Cups, some of the seams for the film The French Lieutenant's Woman were made. You soon become aware of the town's need to promote tourism. Small hotels and guest houses are almost in every street. The New Haven, the Mariners, the Dorset, the Style House, and the Buena Vista are to name but a few.
Oh, I've just climbed up 300 feet from sea level, and I've now arrived here in the garden of the Buena Vista Hotel. It's amazing that the Pearl of Dorset, the Cobb Harbour, although it is at sea level, it continues to enhance the scene. I'm walking along the courtyard of the Alexandra Hotel. The Alexandra was built originally by Lord Paulet of Hinton St George as the dower house to his estate. Oh, there you are. You've caught me out again. I've just climbed up here, up the steps, to the gazebo in the garden of the Alexandra Hotel. This is where Lord Paulet may well have retreated to smoke a pipe, to get away from his ladies. Well, high on the hill overlooking the town, we find the Highcliffe Hotel, originally built by Sir Edward Synge and called the Highcliffe House. It was a magnificent Regency residence. It was purchased by Lord Lister. Lord Lister took the title of Baron Lister of Lyme Regis. Lister was the first person to take antiseptic and use it in surgery. Lister left a permanent monument in the town. He endowed part of our public gardens, the Lord Lister and Langmore Gardens. You can still find people playing mini golf and crazy golf on long, balmy summer evenings. Oh! I'm not sure how this works. I think you've got to get the ball through this hole. Oh, there he is. Lovely shot.
The town boasts a fine 18-hole golf course with magnificent views over the old Cobb Harbour. Andrew Black, the resident professional, demonstrated some of his more classic strokes for us. The 3,500 population, including Mr. Danny Reed, who looks after the ducks, are well served with good pubs and inns. There are 13 in all.
Go summon all the neighbours in and bid 'em take a cup. Dead dog Scrumpy from the apple tree. Dead dog Scrumpy, full of pedigree. Now every man that drank that night got drunk as drunk could be, and wondered how the Scrumpy had acquired such potency. The farmer kept his counsel as he took another drop, when all at once...
Having now explored beneath the beauty of this exciting little seaport, Lyme Regis has proved to you its entitlement to the title, the Pearl of Dorset.
Goodbye. I hope my tour has helped you to enjoy the beauty of the Pearl of Dorset. Do you know, there's one thing I've always found very difficult, and that's putting one of these up.
Never abroad will I roam.